편해봐.
Is it just me? Or have K-drama endings been kinda disappointing lately? Don't pretend you haven't felt it. I see you nodding. Quick heads up before we go on. Spoilers ahead. So, what's the reason behind it? I've got a few theories. And yeah, some of you are probably going to fight me on this. But let's get into it. Today we're talking about 5 big reasons why K-drama finales flop, starting with the one that drives everything else: industry pressure. And I don't mean a little hope it does well kind of pressure. I mean the full force of a multi-million-dollar production breathing down your neck. Every drama has to do 3 things at once: pull big ratings at home for advertisers, go viral internationally to lock in those Netflix or Disney Plus deals, and dominate social media so people keep talking about it week after week. The problem? Those 3 audiences want completely different things. Domestic viewers might want more family melodrama. International fans are here for the romance and chemistry. Advertisers, they just want as many eyeballs as possible by the finale, whether or not the story needs it. And that's when the tug of war starts. You can almost feel it in the writing. The first half of a drama is tight, emotional, and purposeful. Then, somewhere in the final stretch, the cracks appear. Characters start acting out of character. Storylines vanish without explanation. Episodes feel padded just to hit the promised count. It stops being about giving the story a satisfying ending and starts being about delivering a moment. Something to trend, something to replay, something to keep sponsors happy. For streaming platforms, the pressure looks different. It's all about completion rates, rewatch minutes, and viral moments, which aren't always the same thing as telling a great story. Take Queen of Tears as a prime example. I really respect Park Ji-eun, the mastermind behind My Love from the Star and Crash Landing on You. She knows how to mix romance, comedy, and drama like almost no one else. And Queen of Tears had everything going for it. Kim Soo-hyun and Kim Ji-won's undeniable chemistry, a massive budget, lavish production, and global hype so big that every episode was trending worldwide before it even finished airing. This was set up to be a modern classic. But in the finale, it just unraveled. Suddenly, we were swimming in cliches. Miracle cures, last-minute amnesia, perfectly timed confessions. Moments that should have been emotional gut punches instead felt like they were ticking boxes on a K-drama finale must-have list. The pacing went from tightly wound to oddly lopsided. Subplots started to drag, side characters ate up screen time that should have gone to the main couple, and villains lingered without delivering any meaningful payoff. It wasn't awful, but with all that talent, budget, and goodwill, it was a stumble at the finish line that felt like a massive missed opportunity. Instead of following the story's emotional core, it played it safe. And safe rarely leaves a lasting impact. Now, before anyone says, well, the pressure was huge. Hold up. Look at When Life Gives You Tangerines. Same setup. Massive hype, A-list leads, Park Bo-gum and IU, Netflix hyping it as one of the biggest releases of 2025, and a creative team stacked with award-winning directors and writers. Every episode was getting dissected online the second it aired. Everyone is waiting for it to fumble, the kind of pressure that could crush even a great script. But here's the thing, instead of folding or chasing trends, When Life Gives You Tangerines trusted its story. Even with decades-spanning timelines and multiple arcs, nothing felt rushed or abandoned. That's why this drama stuck the landing and Queen of Tears stumbled. One followed the heart, the other followed the numbers. Numbers can get you a massive premiere. A truthful ending makes a classic. Of course, not every ending fails because of industry pressure. Sometimes the downfall comes from the writers deciding, you know what would really blow people's minds? And then throwing in a twist no one asked for. Which brings me to my second culprit, the shock the audience mindset. You know the type? Instead of wrapping things up in a way that actually fits the story, some dramas slam the wheel in the last 10 minutes, kill off a main character, flip the entire plot upside down, reveal that someone's been secretly evil since episode 1 with zero setup. It's not about closure. It's about making sure people are arguing about it online the next morning. Take Big Mouth. For most of its run, it's a tight, stylish noir about Park Chang-ho, a struggling lawyer with a reputation for talking big but never delivering, which earns him the nickname Big Mouth. He gets roped into a high-profile murder case involving the city's elite, but ends up framed as Big Mouse, a mysterious, all-powerful con man who pulls strings from the shadows. Thrown into prison and surrounded by dangerous criminals, Chung-ho has to think fast to survive. The big hook? He eventually leans into the Big Mouse persona to dismantle corruption from the inside. Meanwhile, his wife Go-mi-ho, a nurse with nerves of steel, works on the outside to clear his name. She infiltrates Gucheon Hospital, uncovering a web of political corruption, illegal experiments, and toxic waste dumping, all tied to the same powerful figures who framed her husband. But then, the finale swerves hard. Out of nowhere, Miho gets terminal cancer from toxic wastewater exposure. She exposes the scandal live on TV and dies minutes later. Chang-ho takes revenge by poisoning the villain Mayor Choi Do-ha with the same radioactive water. Poetic? Maybe. But it's rushed, morally messy, and full of dangling plot threads. For a lot of fans, Miho's death felt less like a natural conclusion to her arc and more like a cheap shot for shock value. Did they need to kill her? Not really, but they wanted that gotcha moment, even if it came at the cost of the story. Then there's 2521, 16 episodes of beautifully nostalgic romance between Na Hee-do and Baek Yi-jin, only for the finale to time skip and reveal they've broken up. No betrayal, no fiery fight, just two people slowly drifting apart while chasing their dreams. Their tunnel breakup scene is almost cruel in its quietness, parting with love instead of anger, which somehow hurts more. Both endings prove the same thing. When you write for the reaction instead of the story, you might get trending hashtags, but you also leave your most loyal fans feeling hollow. And when twists aren't earned, it's usually for the same reason finales fall apart in another way. The story's been crammed into too little time. Whether it's rushing to shock you or rushing to wrap everything up, the result's the same. The ending feels forced. Which brings me to factor 3, the rise of short K-dramas, the ones that ditch the classic 14 to 16 episode run and try to cram everything into 8 episodes or fewer. Don't get me wrong, I love a good short drama. 6 or 8 episodes, easy to binge in a weekend, perfect when you're in a K-drama slump or just need something cozy after a long week. No 16-hour commitment, no filler. But here's the problem. A lot of these mini-runs start strong, and then completely unravel in the last stretch. You know the drill. Episode 1, hooked. Episode 4, still hooked. By episode 6, you're thinking, this could be a new favorite. Then you hit episode 7, and suddenly it's like the writers remembered they only have 2 hours left. Cue the chaos. Emotional arcs crammed into 30-second montages, conflicts disappearing after one scene, characters doing 180 degrees because the clock says so. Case in point, Tastefully Yours. 10 episodes, Go Min-si, Kang Han-yul, a countryside enemies to lovers rom-com with a foodie twist. All the ingredients for a warm, healing drama. And yet, instead of letting the romance simmer and the characters grow, we spent half the series detoured into an ex-boyfriend plot in Japan. By the time the main romance actually started, it was basically the finale. And the big cook-off that should have been the emotional climax? Rushed, with Yeonju barely involved, ending in a random tie that felt like it wandered in from another drama entirely. The worst part? With this short K-drama format on the rise, we're probably going to see even more of this. Platforms love it. Cheaper to make, easier to binge. But if you've got a story this big and you try to shove it into such a tiny box, something's gonna get cut. And 9 times out of 10, it's the emotional depth, the character growth, and the kind of ending that actually sticks with you. Next up, the ultimate buzzkill, the Season 2 cliffhanger. You've just spent hours glued to your screen, totally invested, bracing for that big emotional punch, and instead, the finale slides you a sticky note that says, "To be continued." Cliffhangers stacked on cliffhangers. The payoff you've been waiting for? Yeah, maybe next year. Sometimes fine, if Season 2's already filmed and ready to drop. But most of the time, they have no idea if they're even getting renewed, which means you just poured 10, 12, 16 hours into a story that might never finish. Yes, Vagabond, I'm looking right at you. All of Us Are Dead is another good example. 12 episodes of high school zombie chaos, friends ripped apart, gut punch sacrifices, desperate fights for survival, and the finale punts all the biggest answers to someday. Namra, one of the most important characters, reveals she's a half-bee, immune but infected, and that others like her are still out there. The survivors sneak back to their destroyed school, spot her on the rooftop, get a cryptic, "I'll see you again," and she's gone. And the wait? Absolutely brutal. Not a follow-up the next year, not even the year after. It took 3 whole years just to get an official announcement. And even then, it wasn't a trailer or a release date, just season 2 is in production. By then, the hype had cooled, the emotional investment was gone, and that cliffhanger that once had everyone buzzing was just a faint memory. Now, don't get me wrong, season 2 isn't the enemy. Some K-dramas like Sweet Home, Yumi's Cells, and Weak Hero Class. One genuinely need it because they're adapting bigger source material. And Western TV, they've been playing the long game forever. When it works, it's great. Richer arcs, bigger worlds, more time for characters to grow. But here's the thing, K-dramas built their global reputation on being self-contained. 16 episodes, a clear beginning, middle, and end. Real closure. That was the deal. That's the K-drama formula fans fell in love with worldwide. Now that's changing. Shorter seasons, more cliffhangers, finales that feel less like endings and more like sales pitches for the next installment. And when the main conflict could have been neatly wrapped in season 1, stretching it into a second season just feels like holding the story hostage. And worse? When season 2 finally drops, it's often running on leftovers from season 1 instead of fresh, exciting stakes. The pacing sags, the emotional highs fall flat, and you're left watching a show you once loved, wishing it had quit while it was ahead. Last factor, and my ultimate pet peeve, is when a K-drama with all the potential in the world stops telling a story and starts selling an agenda. You've been hooked for weeks, the characters feel alive, the world feels real, and then the finale throws it all in the trash for a message you didn't sign up for. When the Phone Rings is a prime offender. For 6 episodes, it's a tense, razor-sharp political thriller with real emotional stakes. But the finale? Gone. No clever rescue, just random airstrikes, jungle shootouts, and a reunion so rushed, it felt like someone lost half the script. Underneath it all, the story morphed into a one-sided heroes versus villains, and so blatant that even die-hard fans called it propaganda. The personal stakes we cared about? Vanished, replaced with something that looked and sounded like a glossy war commercial. Then there's When the Stars Gossip. Sold as a quirky space rom-com, but it crash lands into Gong Hyo-jin's Eve giving birth in space, dying instantly, and Lee Min-ho's character raising their baby. His final line, calling the universe both a grave and a womb. On paper, maybe just odd, but in South Korea, where the government is loudly trying to boost the world's lowest birth rate, that womb fixation felt way too pointed. Viewers didn't buy it. Comments called it thinly veiled pro-birth propaganda, a legendary waste of 50 billion won, and even the most failed K-drama in history. The biggest sting? Watching a confident female commander get reduced to nothing more than a walking womb in the final act. That's why propaganda-heavy endings hurt so much. They hijack the story. The characters stop feeling human, the plot stops making sense. And instead of walking away remembering the romance, the tension, the magic, you remember being lectured. But here's the thing. Social commentary can be amazing when it's baked into the story, not slapped on like a sticker at the end. DP had you fuming at military abuse without a single, and the moral is, moment. You felt it through the hazing, the bullying, the cover-ups. Misang nailed office politics the same way. No lectures, just the slow grind of impossible deadlines and tiny humiliations that wear people down. Other great examples? Extraordinary Attorney Woo took on disability rights and bias through cases and relationships, not speeches. Taxi Driver went after real-life crimes, workplace abuse, scams, trafficking, and gave you catharsis and consequences through pure storytelling. That's the difference. The best K-dramas make you feel the message. The worst just whack you over the head with it. And honestly, that's what kills so many finales for me. Somewhere along the way, the story stops being for the audience and starts being for the algorithm, the sponsors, or whatever message they're trying to push. Anyway, that's my take. How about you? Which K-drama endings made you want to throw your popcorn at the screen? Or do you think I'm being dramatic? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We can fight it out nicely. Oh, and while you're here, check out my top 100 most talented K-drama actors list to see if star power alone can save a bad ending.